Well, welcome to the Ask Dr. Wilson show. We are your hosts. I'm Dr. Nick Wilson.
I'm Dr. Traci Gross. On this podcast, we have conversations about health. We talk about what it is, where it comes from, and really how you can achieve it for yourself and your entire family.
I hope you enjoyed this episode on the Ask Dr. Wilson show.
One thing that I've kind of been burning on recently, and with everything going on and people telling you what to think, is I personally feel like if something worked, you shouldn't be forced to do it. Mm-hmm. And I think you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, what do they call it? Vacation. It sounds rhymes with, right. It's so weird how we can't even talk about this.
Right.
Isn't it? Like we have to disguise the word vaccination. Mm-hmm. We have to disguise it. Even though it's not even a vaccination, by the way. It's more of a gene therapy, but That's an aside.
Yes. Call it what you will. But the fact of the matter is that if something truly worked, then people would just do it. People would do it without mandates, without coercion, because like you said, the outcomes are telling of the process.
You know
right?
what? You know what I hear sometimes on that, just from my wife being a health freedom attorney and getting into these debates and speaking everywhere, is that we had to mandate seatbelt laws too, because people didn't make the right decisions with their seatbelts either. And so we had to mandate the seatbelts. And you know what's really interesting about that is the seatbelt law was actually very controversial because it was a slippery slope.
Was it?
It was because they said, well, you're playing Big Brother. You're attempting to play daddy government, making my personal decisions for me that only affects me. And so there was a big debate when the seatbelt laws came about. And what the people were in opposition to those types of laws were saying, this is a very slippery slope. It's going to lead to other personal decisions that this will then be used as a reference point for.
That's so interesting.
Interesting how the same thing happened with masks and then the vaccine and now the booster. And people think it actually is going to stop there.
What I come back to is, so it's a difference in health, right? I can see the seatbelts because that's actually like saving a life. It's been proven, right? But when it comes to health practices and procedures, there are so many things that were accepted as true at the time, but looking back in retrospect, it does not make any sense at all. For example, I was reading this week about lobotomies. And in 1949, so 1949, not that long ago, the man, his name is Antonio Egas Moniz. He received a Nobel Peace Prize for the prefrontal lobotomy. Okay,
keep going.
Basically, to explain a lobotomy in, I guess, kind of a crude way, he determined that lobotomy is a good treatment for clinical depression. What a lobotomy is basically taking a shiv or a stick, sticking it up people's nose and then kind of scrambling their brain around, hoping that it would change their mental state. It does change your mental state, but his intention was to fix mental illnesses, mood disorders. This was an extremely experimental procedure, and it has a risk factor of messing up people's brains, basically turning them into vegetables. And it was put into practice simply because it was determined by him to be safe and effective. Where have we heard that before?
Right.
It's all experimental.
And here's the thing here. There's so many different examples of where the FDA approved something and then it turned out to be harmful. We see it all the time with class action lawsuits, with with certain products being pulled off the market. We saw it with Merck, with Vioxx. Vioxx killed more people than the Vietnam War did. One drug, FDA approved.
Yeah.
And people took the product because they thought it was good for their arthritis and their arthritic pain, and then boom, they started dropping dead of heart attacks. The reason why Merck actually got sued is because they hid the data. They knew that it was happening, and there's a room full of executives that literally weighed the risks of being sued versus the profit of keeping it on the market. And they weighed that decision and they chose to keep it on the market.
Once again, at the detriment to the people profiting off of sickness.
And that's to trust a 3-letter agency with your health is just not wise. There's so much industry influence, so much corruption involved. And when you actually know that, then it causes you to ask questions. And it's not even as simple as just put on your seatbelt, because put on a seatbelt, I can see what's happening with the seatbelt. What are the ingredients in this vaccine?
Yeah.
People don't know that because they won't disclose it. So you're telling me that we're mandating to put something into our bodies that they won't disclose what the ingredients are? I don't eat things that I don't know the ingredients of.
Yeah.
Let alone inject it into my body. And so, wait, that's a singular ideology that I have to subscribe to in order to fit in here? I mean, that just, if you consider the repercussions that this is having across the board, and people losing their jobs, and people walking out of their jobs, the abuse that's happening. I mean, I read a statistic where suicides, suspected suicide attempts were 50.6 higher among girls. This was between February and March of 2021, and 3.7% higher among boys. Because of the pandemic. And we say because of the pandemic, but because of the restrictions. Because people are depressed. People are more apt to have anxiety. I read that 1 in 10, there it is, 1 in 10 adults reported anxiety and or depression prior to the pandemic. Nearly 1 in 5 adults are reporting to have anxiety or mental illness during the pandemic. And then 56% of young adults aged 18 to 24 now have anxiety or depressive disorder type symptoms during the pandemic. 56%. And so if we look at the collateral damage, if you will, so this is what we have to talk about. The collateral damage of these types of decisions, of shutting down society, of dividing society, of the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated, of only allowed to see or trust those 3-letter agencies and censoring all the information. And people know it. They're seeing it with their own eyes. And so it's hard for them because they are seeing the truth, but then they try to get the truth out there and it's being censored.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or they're trying to tell their parents, or they're trying to help their loved ones. And you're called a conspiracy theorist. But who's really the conspiracy theorist if the word natural immunity is being censored?
Yeah. It's negative emotions affect immunity as well. I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize. If you are under these levels of stress, if you are depressed, if you are having like mental illness or claiming mental illness, that's going to affect how well your immune system works. So it's a vicious cycle too. If you are so afraid of getting the coronavirus, if you're so afraid of getting sick, then that's going to inherently lower your immune system and you have greater chances of getting sick.
Right. Just think about when you have that test coming up, or you lost a loved one, or there's grief, or there's, just name the emotion that then all of a sudden you start feeling under the weather.
Yeah.
And to negate that, or to, I guess, like just to not even acknowledge the fact that negative emotions have a profound impact on your psychology and then your immune system. If are we talking about health here? I mean, is this what this is about, health? Because if we're talking about health, we're sanitizing everything. We're having so much fear and anxiety. We've watched the news on constantly just trying to keep up with things, because I feel like you're forced to kind of keep up with the news of the day because you don't know what new mandate is coming about. You don't know what new restriction or new variant or whatever is going to happen next. So I feel like even me, who I don't watch the news, I've had to keep up with things more as just a business owner and just to help with patients and helping to navigate people through this. I've had to actually keep up with this more than ever. And I feel like it's a constant moving target, with what is coming next. And to just ignore the fact that this is having a negative impact on emotions and psychology, and to ignore that has any impact on the immune system is crazy. What I appreciate right now is, and we can talk about these different paradigms, because I think it's so important to identify the paradigm shift that is happening.
Yeah.
And what's been really encouraging to me is being around the people who are converting in their mind to a new way of thinking. And it's made them think about what they really do believe.
Yeah.
About their position in the world and about what they believe about their bodies and believe about their, philosophy. And I've seen the difference now. I've seen the difference when that shift starts to happen, and then they start to question things that they just previously held as truth, right? So I'll give you an example. Germs. Okay, germs. So you and I have both watched this with patients, but it's so cool to see it with family members. I've seen it personally with family members of those who were previously germophobic, meaning that they sanitized everything. They had no surface in their house that had not been Lysoled.
Yeah, yeah.
And then COVID hits, and you would think that that there'd be more Lysol usage, and there was, across the board.
Yeah.
But it's been really cool to see, like in my own family, I've seen these family members who all of a sudden have understood, oh, we actually need germs. Our bodies are made up of bacteria and viruses, and we need certain exposures for, for health and for our bodies to build immunity. And, think about those who are isolated or those who never get exposed to germs, as an example. When they do get exposed, they get sick. Think of that school teacher, the very first time that teacher goes in, that very first day, that first week, it's known that school teachers get sick because they all of a sudden get exposed to all these different germs from all these different kids, and their immune system was not ready for that. They didn't have that exposure previously, so it's known that new school teachers get sick. Same thing with new doctors, new nurses. It's the same thing that you and I saw with clinicals, less in a chiropractic situation than in that situation because, we're exposed to so much and we aren't necessarily germophobic.
Yeah.
We're not Lysoling everything.
Yeah.
You see it with submarines. You take a Navy ship and they go under at first, and everything is sanitized. Everything they're literally filtering in the oxygen from the ocean. And so for however long they're down there, for 30, 60, 90 days, whatever it might be. Well, when they open that hatch and all go back out there, guess what happens? They get sick because they've been isolated. They've not exposed themselves to the rest of the world. So the world is waking up to this idea that we do need exposure in order to be healthy. And it's really cool to watch because that flies in the face of a germ theory of disease. That's all about the germ. It has nothing to do with the host.
And I think it's important to specifically state that it's not the germ that makes you sick, right? It's the host. We have this idea of formula. I like to put things in formulas. It makes it simple. Germ plus host equals a response. So the germ is what we're exposed to. We can't really control the germ. We've been trying to control the germ for 2 years at this point, and it's not working for us. But we can control the host. We can control the way that we take care of our bodies. We can control how strong our immune system is. And when we put the germ and a strong host together, that gives us the response that we want.
That's right. So isolation weakens the host.
Exactly.
That's the point, is that those Navy ship people who go underneath on the submarine, they had the same immune system as before. They had better exposure, but then they go under in the submarine, and now the host is actually weakened because of a lack of exposure. How interesting that exposure actually increases your immune system. It helps your immune system so it can fight off things that should fly in the face and cause some question marks to come about of, should I actually be exposed to some things? Is wearing my mask all the time, is that actually going to be healthy? Or am I creating an environment just like those Navy ship men who go underneath on a submarine? Right when I take it off, what's going to happen then? What is your immune system ready for this? So if this is about, is this about health? Are we talking about health here? Because if this is about health, then we need some level of exposure. And that's really the terrain theory of disease, or the terrain theory of sickness. Is it's all about the host. What can you do to strengthen your own immune system from the inside out so that you have your best fighting chance for anything and against anything?
Yeah. So when we talk about strengthening the host, being a strong host, we have to ask questions. What are you eating? Are you stressed?
Does that matter? Wait, does nutrition matter? I didn't think that mattered.
Imagine that. No, but look at what you're eating. Are the foods that you're eating, are they good, whole foods? Are they giving you nutrients, or are they things that are causing inflammation in your body and causing decreased immunity? Like, well, all the things we've talked about before, sugars and GMO foods, things that are sprayed and have toxins in them.
Right, toxins matter too?
Oh my goodness, we're just going down the rabbit hole.
Really, does any of this stuff really matter? I thought it was just about masking up and getting vaccinated.
Mm-hmm. Oh, but we talked about stress a lot. Are you appropriately de-stressing? Are you doing things that foster peace and
doesn't matter.
A healthy mindset? I'm trying to give answers here, give keys to move in the right direction.
Yeah, I hear you. You and I both, we see that the terrain is so important, and all these things that you do actually creates that environment, that internal environment.
Right.
That's vital.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we're joking, but it's like, why in the world, if this is about health, are we not actually talking about it?
Yeah.
Why is this not public health knowledge? Why is this not something why is that not on the billboards? Why was there not such big push to go eat healthy? Right. Why is there not such a big push to minimize your toxins? Why is there not such a big push to have faith instead of fear? Why is there not a big push to, get oxygen and exercise and build lean muscle? And why is there not a big push to have a balanced nervous system? Why is that not a push? Right? Why is that? Maybe because the people who think that way aren't pushy with mandates and stuff like that. Maybe that's why. I don't know. But I do think that it's a necessary conversation, and you're not going to get it from the top down. It's going to come from the bottom up. It's going to come from your own individual decision to ignore what's coming from the top down.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, it goes back to who do you trust? That idea of, no, actually there's extremely harmful, or I'd say questionable bias and conflicts of interest. And so that's not my health authority anyway. They don't have a great track record. So I'm going to step into a new paradigm. And it's a different paradigm that's not governed by the pharmaceutical industry or that influence of the pharmaceutical industry on those 3-letter agencies. But I'm going to trust my body. I'm going to trust nature. I'm going to trust God. I'm going to trust my immune system. I'm going to build natural immunity the best that I possibly can. And at the end of the day, my life matters. My individual life does matter. And I'm not going to sacrifice myself for the, quote, greater good, because the greater good is made up of a community of individuals.
Yeah.
And so if you're sacrificing individuals for the community, well, the community is a bunch of individuals. So if everyone is deciding to do that, well, guess what? We're actually harming the public and public health and the community and grandma and grandpa and all the ones that we're supposedly trying to protect right now.
So figure out what you believe, figure out who you trust, focus on the things that really build health, because your body is brilliant and you have natural immunity.
Hey, I want to let you know about a new and exciting feature that we have to answer your questions. You've got questions, maybe we've got answers, and we've got a great way for you to submit your questions. So what you do, you have questions. Maybe it's about your health, maybe it's about supplements, maybe it's about next steps that you need to take, or you have just questions about something you heard on an episode. What you do is you go to dr-wilson.com, click on podcasts, and you can record your customized message right there. Keep it under 90 seconds, and Dr. Traci and I will answer your question on upcoming shows. So go to dr-wilson.com and submit your audio question and listen for your answer.